Scarlet rot is an old legend in the lands between, a dangerous sickness that eats away life like a vicious plague. It corrupts any man and beast who come into contact with it, deforming their bodies, eating away their wits, driving them to madness, and causing them to act like wild animals. Alright, so today we're seeing if we can beat Elden Ring, but only using Scarlet Rot. The only rule I have for this challenge is I can only use Scarlet Rot to deal damage. Now that this includes Scarlet Rot summons, weapons, and incantations, but it must have Scarlet Rot attached to it. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's hop into the run. We choose the Warrior class as it does start with 16 dexterity, which will help us get our first weapon when we eventually do get it. Now that we have the class selected, we go over to the character creator where we create. This is what I assume the effects of Rot does to a person. It just makes you look like this. Now that we've got the character creator out of the way, we make it over to the Grafted Scion, but because we can't actually damage him currently, we just go and jump off and unalive ourselves. And then we make our way into the open world where we go and talk to Melina to get Torrent. After getting Torrent, we teleport over to the Church of Ella to talk to Ronnie to get the Spearing Calling Bell. Now that we have the bell, we make our way over to the Dragon Burnt Ruins. We take the chest in the bottom of it to teleport our way over to Caelid. Now that we are in Caelid, we make our way down to the swamp over to this broken building here and grab the Rotten Stray Ashes. Now the Rotten Stray Ashes is a summon that summons a dog that gives Scarlet Rot, so we're allowed to use it. Now that we have our Rotten Stray Ashes, we make our way over to Margit to test out our new puppy.
What the fuck was that?
Now that we got that fixed, we summon our Rotten Stray to battle Margit. We summon in our Rotten Stray, and then we run right up to Margit, and as long as we stay close enough, he'll sort of aggro onto us. He'll be like, hey, why are you so close to me? He'll start smacking me up, and that allows the Rotten Stray to get some bites into his backside. We try this until the Rotten Stray gives Margit Rot, and then once that happens, the Rot will be able to take care of the rest of his HP. All I have to do is go hide in a bush, and then run back and forth until eventually he dies. And boom, we have killed Margit. Now that we have killed Margit, it's time to move on to Godric. But Godric isn't as easily killable. He has a lot more HP than Margit. He's not just gonna die from just a rotten bite. So therefore, we're gonna have to get our first weapon. Now, all of the rot weapons are either in the Consecrated Snowfield or the Halig Tree, except for one, a rapier that this NPC is holding. So we make our way over to Caelid to kill the Knight's Cavalry, get him to jump off the bridge to get us a bunch of free runes to prepare ourselves for this rapier. And now that we have all the proper levels, we make our way over to both of the forts to get the left and right medallion pieces. Now that we have that, we make our way over to the NPC that has the rapier, and she is tough because what are we supposed to do? We don't have a weapon. We can't attack her. I try to get this golem to attack her. Nope, he doesn't like attacking her. We don't really have anything until I find this little rock down here that I can just sort of hang off and try to bait her into a thrust to make her fall off. She ends up just rolling off, and just like that, boom, now we have the Anspur Rapier. Now that we have that, I think it's time to take on Godric. So we're back at Godric. I summoned my Rotten Stray and I started to give Godric some impaling thrusts. Now this rapier does little damage, so it's more just to provoke rot, and Godric is one of my better fights, so once I do end up giving him rot, I just sort of kite him out, run back and forth again, but this time one rot proc isn't going to be enough. We're going to need two. So once the rot does run out, we give him a second proc and he ends up dying. Now I'd like to get another weapon before we go into the Renala fight, so I go back to the Stranded Graveyard as there's two items we want to grab down there, one of them being the Erdtree's Favor as our first talisman. So we go down there and we grab that, and then we also go pick up the Dragon Communion Seal, and what that does is it buffs any dragon incantations. Now why are we grabbing this? Well, there's this one dragon incantation called the Rotten Breath, and what Rotten Breath does is it inflicts damage and Scarlet Rot buildup. So as long as anyone is in the area, they're getting Scarlet Rot. In order to get that, we need a dragon heart. So we go over to the swamp and fight Akil, who we end up giving rot. We kind of just run away, hide from him until the rot wears out. Then we give him some little pokies until he eventually falls. And now that we have a dragon heart, we make our way over to the Dragon Communion Church, where I accidentally panic purchase Dragon Claw, which means we're not out of a dragon heart and we don't have the right spell. What am I going to do to solve this, you may ask? Well, that's what the big sleeping dragon's for. He is susceptible to rot, surprisingly, considering where he's at. You know, you'd think he'd be used to it by now, but we give him some pokes, give him rot, and we do this until he eventually dies. Now, this isn't as good as bleed, but we don't have access to bleed. Now that he is dead, that gives us 5 dragon hearts and it gives us levels, which is a win-win. Now we head back to the church and we buy the correct spell, Rotten Breath. Now that we have Rotten Breath, we make our way over to the Red Wolf of of Radagon to test it out. I immediately summon in my Rotten Stray. He'll help me out a lot. As he goes for a jump attack, I give him a little spray of Rotten Breath. We have a small FP bar as we had just summoned. Eventually the dog does give aggro, allowing me to spray him down with some more Rotten Breath. And look at the damage it's doing to him, because he's so frail. That there gave him Scarlet Rot. So now all I have to do is really just dodge and allow him to rot away. Hit him with another Dragon Breath though, just to make sure that he is going down. Now we just play the dodging game and wait for the rot to take his life. Now that the Red Wolf of Radagon is dead, it is time to move on to Renala. But before that, she has a little guardian that I like to take care of first. And that is the Carrion Knight in front of Renala. So what I do here is I take him over to this elevator and I try to bait him up it to make sure he dies of fall damage. And I was like, haha, this is gonna be funny. And then he said, no, I'm gonna stand on this ledge, which I'm not the biggest fan of. You know, I wanted him to fall down there and die, but it is what it is. So I lock onto him and I spray him with some Rotten Breath and knock him down the hole anyways, because you cannot test fate, all right? It was meant to be, you're going down that elevator hole and you are dying. Now with him out of the way, we make our way over to Renala. We use our little toothpick to poke all of the little children here because we don't want to kill them. We just want to pop the little bubbles that we got to drop Renala on the ground. And then we give her a bunch of pokes. And eventually she does get rot. So I just sort of waited out. Then I found out that you can't kill Renala with a status while she's in her bubble. When she's in her bubble, she is not meant to die. So her HP drops to 0 and it just sort of stops. It doesn't go any further. So we have to pop her bubble, bring her down to the ground, give her one final poke to invoke phase 2. Now that we're in phase 2, I summon my Rotten Stray and we just sort of beat up on her until she gets Scarlet Rot. All she can do now is summon and hope that they run all the way over to us and attack us. Now I just kite out the summons as she does summon until her Rot runs out, which it eventually does, and then we go back in for some more pokes to try to give her Rot again, and we end up just killing her instead because she is so frail, even with our weapon not even upgraded. Now that Renala was dead, it was time to make our way up to the capital. We go fight Margit again because this Margit is holding the Viridian Amber Medallion. So we give him Rot with Rotten Breath, and then we just sort of wait for him to rot out, and eventually he does die, giving us our second talisman of the run. After that, we make our way up to the Draconic Tree Sentinel. Now the Draconic Tree Sentinel is kind of difficult, as in he's pretty strong, and me being naked and not having a lot of HP, he sort of just one-shots me with his lightning attack. So what we do is we go up to him and we poke him a couple of times, invoke Scarlet Rot, and once he does get Scarlet Rot, which does take a little bit as he is pretty tanky, we give him Scarlet Rot. Once we do that, we make our way to the side of the castle here, where we can jump over to the cliff side, allowing us to get up here. And once we're up here, he won't aggro on us. He'll lose aggro and return to his default position, which is in front of the gate. So once he loses aggro, we run back there and we just sort of wait around until Rot runs out. And then we do this process. So now we just stand here and we wait for him to take Rot damage. Now that he's sort of in his phase 2, we summon our Rot dog in order to give him Rot quicker, which he does. And luckily he focuses the Rot dog and not me, allowing me to repeat the process and wait for him to just rot out. And luckily he actually just dies this time, and we didn't really have to do much. We just sort of stand here and watch him rot away. Now that he is dead, we now have access to the capital, and we make our way up to the Goldfree. This is our first boss that's going to give us some real trouble, as Goldfree can't get rot, so we can't really cheese him like we've been cheesing everyone else. We actually have to use skill. What? So this requires me to level up my weapon. So I go around and I grab the smithing stone bell bearings 1 to 3, and once I have those, I upgrade my weapon up to plus 14, and then we fight it out with the Goldfree. I'm just gonna let this one play out because you can watch my skilled gamer abilities as I take him on naked. But now that Goldfree is dead, it's time to take on Morgott. And Morgott, similar to Margit, is very susceptible to Scarlet Rot, so we summon our Rotten Stray Ashes. We go into this with the same sort of strategy. We're trying to keep aggro so the Stray can provoke Rot, because if it does, it lasts a lot longer and does a lot more damage than our Rot for whatever reason. I don't really know the Rot science behind all of what procs, what percentage damage, yada yada yada. I just know that we give Rot and he needs to die. So he ends up proccing Rot, and I just run around this big arena for a little bit until it eventually wears out. Now this Rot lasts for a while, so it ends up doing 9,000 damage, almost 10,000 damage actually. And a funny thing that I learned about this fight, when the Rot ran out, his phase didn't shift at all until I hit him. So Rot can't cause phase shifts. So he has a small sliver of HP left, and we go in and we cause him to transition on no HP. We let him do his little poop blast, and then we go in for one final poke and end up ending Morgott once and for all. L to Morgott and Margit, he both got rotted, and now that he was dead, it was time to move on. Now our Pokey Stick, it's good for giving Rot, but that's about it. It does no damage. So I decided before we go take on the Fire Giant that we need to actually upgrade our weapon. In order to do that, we need to get both of the secret medallion parts. So we head over to the Castle Soul and make our way up to Commander Nile. Commander Nile is quite annoying because he does have his little summons here. So he summons them in. I give him some little thrusty thrusts to try to poise break as quick as possible. So if I can do that, I can get guaranteed damage out, because this weapon, as I said earlier, doesn't do a lot of damage as it is only good for giving Rot. So I stagger the first guy quite quickly and he ends up buffing them, which does suck, but we take out the first one very quickly before we can get overwhelmed. Then we get up behind the shield guy, we give him some thrusts as well, and boom, now that he is dead, it is just me and Commander Nile. So I drink up my flask to give us more FP, and then I summon in the Rotten Stray, because he's not going to be very helpful here, but if he can try to do any little bit of damage, it'll help. Most of Commander Nile's attacks are AoE, so the dog being behind him doesn't mean the dog's safe, and he does end up aggroing the dog quite quickly. We end up giving him Rot really early on into the fight, which is very helpful, because then I just have to focus on dodging, and if I can just bait out his farther ranged attacks, it makes this fight a lot easier, as all he really does, he will jump at us with his foot. Now the Rot, because it was inflicted by our dog, lasts forever. It ends up accumulating like 15,000 damage, and the Rot actually lasts until he dies, which was crazy. The Rot took out another one, and now that Commander Nile was dead, we can make our way up here to grab the left half of the secret medallion. Now that we have that, we teleport over to the village to grab the other half, which is behind this pot right here. We just smack it, and boom, it's a person. We grab the right half, and then we head up to the consecrated snowfields. We make our way up here just past Ordina, which is the town which takes you over to the Halleck Tree, and there's a Rotten Duelist here. Now what this Rotten Duelist has is his great axe here and his helmet. Both of these we want. So we end up just kiting him out, poise breaking him, doing this over and over again until eventually he dies. We get the Greaves and the great axe. Now the great axe is going to be our weapon for the rest of this run. We respec to get the stats for our axe, and unfortunately the footage for the next part corrupted, but it wasn't really important. All we did there was kill 2 more Rotten Duelists to get our Red Riding Hood drip. And now that we have our drip, we make it over to the fort in Caelid that has this lion here. Now this lion will give us the Ash of War that we will be using for the rest of the playthrough, which is Lion's Claw. Now what this does is make our character do a little front flip, land with all of our momentum onto the opponent, which kind of owns them. This is what we'll be using for pure damage. Now that we have this, it was time to upgrade our weapon to plus 25, because might as well just max it out. So we go around and we pick up all these stones necessary to level up our weapon, and we get a plus 25. Now that we have our weapon plus 25, it was time to take on Radahn. Might as well bully the guy who got rotted in the first place. As you may not know, Radahn can get rot super quick. Like we hit him, I think it's like 3 times, and then boom, he has rot without fail. It's pretty sad, honestly, on his part, but we don't really need to rely on that. As you can see, our front flips are doing so much damage to him. We send him into phase 2 quite quickly. We hit some more front flips on him, and we quickly kill Radahn. This poor guy never really stood a chance. And we just sort of did this to assert dominance and get some levels. We take our way over to the sewers. It's time to assert dominance on someone else, and that being Moog. Now Moog can't get rotted to my knowledge. Maybe he can, and I just got really unlucky. But I fought him a couple times, and not once did I provoke rot. So I think he's immune. I'm just gonna say he's immune. I'm not gonna fact check myself, because, you know, I can't be wrong. So this ends up just being a pure strength battle where I just sort of hit him with Lion's Claw over and over again until he eventually dies. The real reason why we were fighting Moog here is because he's gatekeeping Erdtree's favorite +1, which I would like to grab. So after killing Moog, we go and grab Erdtree's favorite +1, and now I think we are ready to take on the Fire Giant. We summon in our Rotten Stray, and then we start beating up on his ankles, and our weapon does so much damage now, so it feels like we are actually well equipped. Our armor set funnily enough, the Rotten Duelist set, we don't have armor on our hands, which, you know, I guess we don't really need. Would have been nice. And it's kind of really frail, so it doesn't help us much. It's just more or less for looks, and so we don't have to be naked the whole run. So we give him rot quite early, which does help in the long run. Phase 2, I don't think you would give him rot in phase 2. If so, it's very hard. But when he phase shifts, it actually does all of the rot damage that you would have done, and he doesn't carry the rot over, which I found very interesting. Yeah, we beat up on his ankle until he phase shifts, and once he was in phase 2, that's when Lion's Claw really came in handy, and we just started doing some front flips on him to do like 700-800 damage a hit, which helped us out quite a bit. And we just tried to find his hand whenever we could to beat up on him, and this was a lengthy battle. He took out all of my pots. I really thought I was gonna lose, but we ended up coming out victorious, dodging his hand attacks, which I eventually learned the pattern for, and beating up on his hand until he died. And just like that, we take out the fire giant. Another big boss down. Next on our hit list was the Godskin duo. Our game plan here was to try to kill the apostle as quick as possible, as he is very frail and our Lion's Claw does so much damage. And then from there we would try to give rot to the noble, and that's how we would kill him, because I didn't really want to deal with him, if I'm honest. So we quickly kill the first one, and then we go and fight the noble. I've never been a big fan of the noble's attacks. I don't like him. The big lizard man hurts a lot, so we end up just resorting onto hitting our front flips on him. And Lion Claw is so broken. I've never used it before this playthrough, but gosh, it does some damage, and you can't get staggered out of it when you're in it. At least I never did. I was hit while doing it, but never staggered out. And while he was summoning his buddy back in, we end up taking him out. And he tried to hit his own front flip on me. Not gonna work, bozo. Transforms into phase 2. And basically now I'm just waiting for him to summon his friend, because then I can get a bunch of free hits in. And now that he's summoning his friend, I get him into a poise break and give him rot, which just immediately melts his HP. And now that big boy is back, it was time to finish the fight. And we end up giving him rot quickly into this life of his, which makes it a lot easier for me. So when he goes to go into his roly-poly phase, I just sort of stand here and let him die, because I thought it would be quite funny just to watch him suffer, as he's made me suffer so much in the past. So as he sonics his way around into his doom, I just sit here and teabag him. Now that he was dead, it's time for the first real boss of this playthrough, Malekith. Malekith, oh my god, this took me so long. First we take on the beast Clergyman. Clergyman is quite easy, as he has some very predictable attacks, and our Lion's Claw so much damage, and it does a lot of poise. So we're quickly able to just hit some nasty front flips. Boom, we get him into a stagger here, where we just smack him up a little bit, and then I think it's just one more little front flip to phase shift him. Boom, and now he's in phase 2. You see how quickly that was? Now this guy, not as quick. I'll put the attempts on the screen in post, but oh my god, this took forever. So I summoned in the Rotten Stray to try to help me. Literally, I'll take anything, any little bits of hand out. Even though our Stray +2 wasn't going to be doing a lot of damage, I just needed to give him rot, because if I could give him rot, I was confident enough in kiting. Our weapon is just so big that when we attack, it takes so long, so he has an opportunity to swing right back. But if our weapon won a little bit quicker, this would have been a lot easier, but it doesn't, so we have to make do. So now that he has rot, we're just basically kiting out and just trying to survive, using the pillars to our advantage, staying as far away as possible from Malekith, letting him rot out. And whenever I saw an opportunity to attack, I would, because I wasn't going to rely on rot. So eventually I found a good opening, and we do end up killing Malekith. Now that Malekith is dead, it's basically time for the final boss rush, starting off with Sir Gideon. Now because Sir Gideon is an NPC and a human player per se, he's very easy to toss around, especially with my big axe, so I can just sort of run up to him, kite out his magic, and just sort of toss him around. He will be trying to dodge as much as possible, but buddy, I can dodge too. I end up getting a mean stun lock in where I can get like 5 hits in a row, ending up ruining his HP and just killing Gideon just like that. He's not so all-knowing because he doesn't know how to dodge. Come on, Gideon, I thought you were better than this. Now that he was dead, it was time to move on to Godfrey. Godfrey, a little tough, just a tad bit. We were able to hit a lot of Lion's Claws on him though, which made this a lot easier, as my goal here was to try to not proc Godfrey with rot, to proc Horlu. Now I don't know if they count as separate entities when they phase shift, like I don't know if it's technically different bosses. If so, this whole strat was kind of pointless, but I was hoping to build up the bar enough to where it would be really easy to proc rot on Horlu and then use it on him instead, because I feel like he would be a lot easier to kite around. But we end up giving Godfrey rot anyways, so the whole strat didn't really work work out. After dodging a many stomps, I ended up phase shifting him into Horaloo, which I back out and realize that he immediately doesn't have rot, so they're not the same entity. I summon in my rot dog for this phase to try to get him off of me for like 3 seconds because he is so aggro. I end up healing up, getting some damage in, and just trying to give him rot because I know he'll be pretty easy to kite away from. He ends up jumping up and gripping the ground with his big old grippers, and that's what just kills my dog right there. There goes my homeboy. I liked my puppy, so I wasn't very happy with that. We hit him with Lion's Claw there, grabs us up and gives us a good old Batista bomb. I'm never the biggest fan of taking those, not gonna lie. Always scare me. Boom, look at me go like a pro, and now boom, he has Scarlet Rot. I can just go dodging everything and just trying to stay as far away as possible from him and just let him rot out. Because I know from my Ascended mod run, from just basically kiting him over and over again, he's pretty easy to kite. You just have to stay your distance, and he can't really catch up to you. You just have to time your dodges. Because he slows time when he tries to grab you, it just gives you more time to get away. As long as you're just full sprinting and watching your stamina, he's pretty easy to just run away from. So I do just that, and eventually he just dies of rot. Now that Horaloo and Godfrey was dead, it was time for the final boss. Now the final boss is going to be quite difficult as they are quote-unquote immune to rot. That doesn't mean they can't get rot, it just means it's very, very difficult to give them rot, because I believe the wiki says they're immune. I ended up giving Radagon rot a couple of times at least throughout my playthrough, so I know that he's not immune. It's just very, very hard to give him rot. So I summon in the rot dog and we just start beating away at him. And this fight was also another one that took, yeah, see, we give him rot here. This fight also took a very long time to get good at, especially wearing like basically nothing. We hit him with the claw whenever we have the chance to because it just does so much damage. And we aren't trying to kite him away because he's actually more annoying at a distance than he is up close. So we're just using the rot on top of our damage to do damage. We're not strictly relying on rot this time. I know, shocker. That's what I've been doing like the whole time, but it doesn't really work on Radagon. I always get caught on that one. I don't really know what's up with that. I always think I'm dodging, but I guess I'm just like messing it up. As you can see, the rot just slowly, as I'm dodging, the rot just slowly chipping away at him. And the combination with me and the rot, it makes it quite easy to get him into phase 2 because he has a lot of evadable, and boom, we end up trading hits there. And I go into phase 2, the Elden Beast, with not a lot of pots, only 4. Not looking great for me, but the Elden Beast, because we have Lion's Claw, it should be easier. As you see the damage we're doing to him, it's doing quite a bit. The annoying part is he just likes to run away. We've run behind him here because he likes to get into that fire breath attack right away, which is quite annoying. And what I'm trying to do here is get a poise stun because that'll be massive and help us in the long run. And just like that, we get one, which is great. Give him a little beatings to his chest. Look at that fat 2k damage. And we get a couple more Lion's Claws off, although we are limited on mana, so we can't really just go crazy on it. But I got pretty decent at this fight to where he doesn't have a lot of hard attacks to dodge. It's just when you get overwhelmed with Elden Stars as he's throwing other stuff at you, that's what makes this fight difficult, and the fact that he runs away forever, which is kind of annoying, but it is what it is. Now I try to get another phase, I try to get another poise break, but it just doesn't work. He's around half HP now. He ends up going into circles here, which is a quite easy attack to dodge. The only annoying part of it is whenever you get out of it, he's just on the other side of the map, no matter what. I've never came out of this attack and he's been in a convenient spot. No, he's just far away, always. He throws out his first little bit of Elden Stars, which I don't really like, because that's where all my HP goes. And then he throws out more of his like targeted stars attacks. I don't like that either. And then while all this is going on, he thinks, maybe I'll just hit him with some Dragon Breath. So he's just trying to do the most here. And as you can see, then he starts throwing off his swords. He's just so annoying. This is a bullet hell. This isn't Elden Ring no more. I'm playing a whole different game. And now after like 5 minutes of dodging, we can finally get to him, get off one attack. We finally get to him after 5 minutes of dodging, get a couple hits in, and then he decides, nah, I'm gone. So he goes to the other side of the arena and throws more Elden Stars at me. And we repeat this process until we get to him again and again. And this time he decides that he doesn't really want to move, which, makes me very happy. I will gladly just sit here and beat on you. And I was getting so happy, I just wanted this to be over at this point because this boss took so long. And boom, we defeated the Elden Beast. Dang, that feels good. Even watching it back, it feels good. It just always feels good. And we claim our throne, being Elden Lord, as we are the Rot Lord. But it's not quite over. We can't call ourselves the Rot Lord without taking on the Rot Goddess, Melania. Frick Loretta, she was a quick kill, right? We're not here for Loretta. It's time for Melania. Now, oh boy, Rot God versus Rot Goddess. We have already proven ourselves Elden Lord, but she doesn't care, right? She doesn't abide by those rules. She is here to fight for herself in the Halig tree. So we go in here and we abuse Lion's Claw, as it will toss her to the ground if we get the good opportunity to. Her phase 1 isn't super difficult, as I've learned to beta her attacks, and I decided to do it naked, as phase 1 is just easier naked with the light roll. It makes it a lot easier than doing it with armor. So we sort of abuse this, and I know she's going to go for waterfowl soon, so I try to back up and give her that opportunity because I don't want to get caught in it. Oh, we both go for the slam there. Oh, we stagger her. We end up getting her half HP, no waterfowl. That's surprising. I don't remember this. We hit her with Lion's Claw, and now we back up because I feel like she is going to do waterfowl any second now, as she is kind of pissed at us because we just sort of like ruined her, only needing to pot once. There it is. She hits us with the waterfowl. We just kite it out, as waterfowl is quite easy if you have the distance on you. She ends up hitting us there, which not great, and she's sort of like beating up on us, which not cool. I did have some runs where I absolutely flawlessed her first phase without getting hit. That was pretty cool. I'm glad that happened. I might add that at like the end of this video, but like there's no real point because we never ended up killing her after this. After flawlessing her first phase, we just got instantly fucked in the second phase, so it doesn't really matter too much. We go and send her into phase 2 where she hits Aeonia on us. I believe that's how you pronounce that. She hits it and we get out of the way and we throw on our armor because I feel like phase 2 is a lot easier with armor on comparatively. Like she just does way too much damage for us to be naked, and we stagger her immediately. We get it off, which is great news for us because we do like half HP before she even like gets the chance to stand up. Now that she has that, I know some attacks that are easily for me to punish, so I just try to play off of those. Like this one right here, I can try to get hit off. She goes into her second Aeonia, which is great for us because then I can sort of use it to get another stagger, so I can use it to get some Lion's Claw damage as I run into the rot, because we are the rot god. Rot doesn't bother us. She jumps up here, just does one of these attacks, which is very punishable, so we give her another hit and we can't really get to the front of her in time as she shoots up really quickly after getting staggered, so we just give her some back shots. Hey yo. And we try to wait for another attack that we can easily abuse, which is this one right here. We can get a couple hits off, and then she goes for waterfowl, which is terrifying, but luckily we end up surviving, which was wild. And then I use it to get Lion's Claw off. She dodges it, but she actually has rot right now, so any little damage will help here, which is surprising because she's supposed to be immune to rot, right? But you know, rot works in weird ways. We end up punishing her here. She is one shot. I dodge the kick, slam it down on her, and prove that I am the rot god, and she is nothing. Took me a long time though, but she is dead. And if you guys did make it to the end of this video, make sure to subscribe if you're new around here. Also, I'm going to be starting streaming here and there, so if you do want to check in, be sure to. I'm going to be streaming tomorrow whenever this video comes out, because I want to finish the Foggate randomizer that I've been doing, and then I'm going to upload it on the channel as its own video. But yeah, if you like this video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.